There's always this thing where someone really ingratiates themselves into some kind of family or band or something. Maybe it happens quite often with Star Trek, where Tasha Yar is kind of that Denise Crosby. You know, she's like, I don't want to be a part of this. And then once it becomes successful, she's like, I want to be a part of this again. Riker and Troi are kind of that way, but not quite as extreme. They're now apparently just contractually obligated to appear in every single Star Trek series that comes along at this point, and which is not a knock against the quality of their appearance here, but they definitely are the ones who are most game to be up for anything, really, to just insert themselves in any kind of Star Trek property going forward.
Which, I mean, good move on their part, because Riker is the get, you know? He's the one that he's like at the top of everybody's list, so he's the
central character now. He's
right.
like the Anakin Skywalker of the Star Wars. He's just, everything revolves around him.
I hope they continue the trend, and the third season of Discovery ends with Riker showing up and saving everybody.
Yeah. It's good. I always liked Riker as a character. I think he's underrated. I like Frakes. I like Frakes as a person and an actor.
He doesn't take himself too seriously, which is
no, he doesn't take himself seriously, and I think that works to his favor here, I think. And the only other, maybe the minor point about this is it's not just John Delancey who sounds different when animated, because I don't think Riker or Frakes sounds like Frakes when he's animated, and they put him through whatever vocal processing they're doing. I thought Deanna Troi or Marina Sirtis sounds the same, but she has kind of a unique vocal quality to her that they can't really hide, but I'm surprised. I guess they just do a lot of vocal production work on them to make them sound a little bit different.
Yeah, you know, and everybody's older and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I remember.
But I think he sounds the same in Picard, but he sounds different here. Yeah. Like if I had the same thing where I was like, is that really Frakes? It doesn't sound exactly like him, but
I think the visual always helps too. Like if you can see the person, then it's easier to tell. I remember when the Ghostbusters video game came out, I was shocked at how different Bill Murray sounded. But then I realized I don't think that he was really I don't know if he was taking it super seriously, because the performance that he gives is not one of his best.
Yeah.
It's like he did the entire it's like he was in the recording booth and just decided he was going to do it like he was a soft rock radio DJ. So all of his lines are kind of in this register, when it's not really, you're not really getting the full Peter Venkman. You're just sort of getting Peter Venkman after dark.
After dark, yeah. Just get a lot of that proximity effect of the mic. Just speak really close into the mic.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll play a clip from this episode, which is called No Small Parts, and then we'll come back and we'll break it down.
Plasma ring scan is complete, Captain Dayton.
I love the Rubido, but nothing beats a brand new ship. Hey, who peeled this film off the weapons panel? Come on, guys. I want the Solvang to be perfect for as long as possible. Hey, take those shoes off right now. What? What the hell was that?
We're being fired upon. Ray shield, red alert.
Get us out of here. Shields at 10%. Direct hit to main engines! Warp now!
All right, so No Small Parts is the 10th and final episode of the first season of Star Trek Lower Decks. It came out on October 8th, 2020, written by Mike McMahan, directed by Barry J. Kelly. In-universe date is unknown, but it's 2380. In this episode, the USS Cerritos encounters a familiar enemy. Tendi helps a struggling recruit find her footing. It's the best Star Trek movie of the last 6 Star Trek. No, yes, 6 Star Trek. Well, they're not counting the Kelvin ones, I won't say. It's the best Star Trek movie in a while, I guess is the way I would describe this one. A 22-minute Star Trek movie. This was the most overtly referential, I thought. It's written by the showrunner. It pulls out like all the stops in terms of making references to things. It's from the Packlids to the Return of the Archons, which is the joke that opens it. Unabashedly ran some calls at the TOS era.
Yes.
and so, but it's good. I thought this one continued the trend of the season, got better as it went along. And I think it ended on a pretty high note. And I was kind of shocked by how much, who knows how long these changes are going to last, but they changed the status quo at the end quite a bit in terms of what the characters are doing and where they are at that point.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It did very much have the feeling of like, just in case we don't get another season, let's just throw it all at the wall. Everything that I want to do, let's do it.
which they are producing right now, a second season. So it is coming. Yeah.
Which, I appreciate, because, you don't know how many times at bat you're going to have. And like, I remember when the Flash show started, when they got to the end of the first season of the Flash, I was listening to an interview with the showrunner, and he was like, honestly, we didn't know if we were ever going to do another season. So why be coy about shit? Just do what you want to do. If you want to start talking about a multiverse, go ahead. Why not? The worst thing that happens is you get renewed and then you get to play in the multiverse. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of thing where it's no point in being coy about it.
Right.
And yeah, I thought it was different than I expected, because I was expecting the Mariner's mom being revealed thing to be like the focal point, and it was to only for like the first 10 minutes or so, and then it kind of went off into this other story, which I
doesn't
appreciate,
matter,
because
I thought it was better for it.
Because I don't know how much meat there really is to that story, and it at the very least it probably served the story better the way they played it as a lead into how the relationship stands at the end.
Yeah, there's really no conflict from that secret. Like they didn't do anything to establish why it would be a problem. So when they got to this point, it's just kind of like, they make a handful of jokes about like all the crew members start sucking up to Mariner because they want to get close to Freeman, but that's pretty much the extent of what it is. They realize that they don't really have. There's no dramatic way to go with that storyline. Right. It's like, what's the crew going to do? Mutiny or something? There's nothing that you can really change about it. So they smartly abandon it. It's barely a thread throughout the season. It kind of ends it on a happy place, but this was mostly just, I was impressed. It was like a pretty cinematic animated episode. There was a lot of, just from the ships being attacked by the Pac-led ship, to the running down the hallways, to the fight sequences, to the explosions, to the character deaths. Like Shax dies on this one.
I know. I was surprised. Didn't see that coming.
No, didn't see. And who's to say he won't have a Wrath of Khan resurrection next season? But
at least in this show, they took their security officer out in a blaze of glory instead of in a goop of oil.
Yeah, like Mariner says, he's out yelling in somebody's face or something and hoping to punch somebody's lights out. But he has a good line about when him and Rutherford are like flying towards the Pac-led ship, he just screams, "This is the best day of my life."
Yes.
I thought this one was a good season ender to an animated show. I thought that it was contained. I felt like what I really felt has developed in the late episodes, and this one in particular, is that I think their scripts got better in terms of balancing storylines against each other. Early on, it was very rudimentary. It was like an A and B cutting back and forth between the two of them constantly. And especially in this one, they did a good job of everyone is doing something at the same time, and they balance it well to keep the pace up the entire way. It just seemed more mature of a script as opposed to the early stuff that we got.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on too. Like there's like 5 different plot lines all going at the same time. Like every character has their own plot line essentially. Yeah. Every main character. And they all tie up pretty well. Like they all kind of feed into each other, and they none of them really seem superfluous. It was good, well written. Introduced my new favorite character, who is the Starfleet truther.
Oh yeah, the theorist. What is it? The founders don't exist, and the Dominion War was always false flag or whatever. Yeah. Mariner went on a date with him. It makes sense that he would be out there, I suppose, some sort of questioning QAnon person. Tendi gets the little blurb credit here about the Cerritos encounters a familiar enemy, which is the Pac-leds, and Tendi helps a struggling recruit find her footing. Not really the main plot of that episode. Bury the lead
on that one, yeah.
Honestly, that one felt more like it was an excuse to bring back the exocomps who are from TNG. And just have them as a character, which is kind of cute, but it didn't.
Is that what the robot person was?
Yeah, it's an exocomp. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that at all.
They were in an episode where they were developed to do this very dangerous work on a Starfleet base, and then Data and Geordi discover that they are developing an intelligence, and it becomes this question of whether or not they can make the robots do things if they don't want to do them and stuff like that. But that's what that is.
And I didn't. I don't know if it's from this season or from a different show, but the villains who show up, those are previously existing villains?
Yep, they're from the first season of TNG. Pac-leds, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that at all either.
Yep.
I did like that they thought every ship was the Enterprise, though.
Yeah, that's the Enterprise. Yeah, they're famous. What's actually kind of neat about it is that their whole gimmick here, where they're stealing other people's technology and they've built this super ship out of it, is what they were doing in the TNG episode. They weren't saying that they were building a super ship, but the gimmick in that episode is that they trick people into helping them and then they steal their technology from them. But they're stupid. Other than that, they talk a lot of like, we need ship go, you make us go, and they talk like that.
I for a second before they showed the captain and stuff, I thought it might have been the that creature that they created a few episodes ago that was just absorbing all the stuff. I thought it might have been that coming back. But
I did too, actually. Although there's a couple episodes where things were absorbing technology, so I wondered if it was just going to be that. But when I read the Familiar Enemy, I guess Familiar Enemy could play that way as well. I expected more of a callback. I vaguely thought it was going to be Borg for a little bit. It seemed like it had potential to be that. I'm glad they didn't. And it's much more of a lower decks thing to have it be the Pac-Leds. And just what I like about it is that they took the TNG plot and they kind of played it to a natural progression as to where that episode implied things would go, and then they made an episode out of it. I thought it was pretty clever, and every ship is the Enterprise. Another Enterprise that showed up. It's good.
Yeah, I have very few complaints about this one. I thought the stuff with Mariner was really fun. It makes me wonder at the end what if Boimler is gone for good, because again, this is another one where Boimler ends up on the back burner to everybody else, and I wonder if they're like, yeah, well, maybe we don't need this guy.
Yeah, you mean the writers? So they're like, do we need this character? Do we even exist here anymore? It's true. He doesn't carry weight. There's not much to say about the Boimler piece. That's that if he gets posted to the Titan at that, and it ends with him just on the other ship, and Mariner trying to get in contact with him, I could see him never coming back, and I don't think it's a loss for the show, really. They could easily replace him with someone more zany. Like, I'd rather bring back the conspiracy theory guy. Seems like a character who's got more of a personality than Boimler does. Rutherford's was interesting because I would have appreciated his mind wipe, I start over as a new character, if I knew anything about his character this season, really. Like, all that I really know is that he had that metal face piece and he kind of is like a people pleaser. And they wiped that. And it would have been more maybe funny and interesting if he had actually grown or something through the entire season. Then they just wipe it out at the end. But yeah, he gets his face ripped off pretty violently, and then he's just a new character at this point, and we're going to get a new Rutherford, I would assume. Yeah,
I don't know how new he's really going to be. He seemed pretty similar at the end, but it must have been a really fun recording day for that guy as they're cycling through all the different personalities. I wonder if they were just like throwing ideas at him and they just used the ones that they liked, or if they had them written into the script.
Does the performance come first? Yeah,
it's like, okay, now say that same line, but now you're a cowboy. All right, now do the same line, but now you're terrified. But now do the same line, but now you're angry.
Yep. No, it was good for him, and occasionally they did a good job of just like one-off lines he would have would just be in a random voice that you could maybe identify as to what it is, or maybe you can't identify it, because some of them are, you see his like RoboCop vision where it shows you what he's selected, but some of them aren't that way, which I thought was kind of cute. Good place to sneak in more Star Trek references too. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but
I also really appreciated when they showed Kirk and Spock. They used an image from the original cartoon. I thought that was nice.
Makes sense, right? That's that is pretty funny. Yeah. And outside of that, Tendi does fine. She does her usual thing. She has the friend with the exocomp and then the doctor.
I do have one quibble with the way that they've been using Tendi. I think they keep going back to the same joke well with her, and I don't think it's helping her character wise, because like 3 different times in this episode they did that bit where like there's a serious moment where she has like the serious realization, but then it's undercut by this other kind of jokey thing. Like when she, at the end, when Rutherford wakes up, she's like, "Oh, you don't remember me at all?" And then there's like this poignant pause, and then she's like, "That means we get to be best friends all over again." They do that a lot with her, and I think it's kind of getting in the way of me understanding like what she's really about. And it reminds me of in the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It's like the one note that everybody took from the first one was it was really funny when Drax laughs at people.
Yeah.
And so the entire second movie is just Drax laughing maniacally at people. And it's like, okay, it works like one or two times, but every single line he has in that movie is like laughing.
Yeah.
And it just, the joke wears out. And with Tendi, I wish she had a little bit more to her other than just this like unbridled optimism. But
yeah, I feel that applies to the three of them except for Mariner. The Mariner's the fourth, who it doesn't apply to that. But I feel like Boimler, Tendi, and Rutherford are not the main characters really in the way that Mariner is, because Mariner actually had somewhat of a mini arc, I guess you could say, across this season, where she had development. The others don't really. Their jokes typically and their plot lines rely on just the one character thing that you know that they do, where Boimler's kind of a suck up. Rutherford is eager to please and has that Vulcan thing, and then Tendi is just wants to be everybody's friend and is not phased by anything that doesn't upset that status quo of her wanting to make friends, basically. So it was fine. It's I think that the way that they started writing the scripts in like episodes like this is that the characters later on, and in this episode, kind of feel like the universe that the scripts are writing feels more like it's organic to me than a reference fest. So it feels like they kind of exist in this world in the way that early on, I don't think they really felt that way, because it felt like it was just like, here's an away mission. These are the characters that we're going to insert into this template. But here it feels like the references that they make feel like they come more organically from things. And I don't know if that's me just getting used to the show or if they're getting better at writing it and inserting it into it. But I think it makes the show feel more true to the universe in a lot of ways too. Like the tone is still there as a comedy, but it feels truer to what like the Star Trek franchise tends to feel like.
Well, they set up, they actually used the callback, the TOS callback at the beginning as a setup for the rest of the episode, actually, like in a kind of sly manner, as well as undercutting the way that if you take a step back from the TV show and look at the Star Trek and Star Trek universe and Starfleet from like a realistic, practical perspective, they make the comment that Starfleet's really good at observing. They're not really they're really good at observing. They're not that great at following up or something like that. I think is the line.
Yeah.
And that is essentially what causes the cause of the villain, right? If this is a villain that exists in TNG that they dealt with and then they just left alone. This thing has been building up on its own, and now it's come back to roost, or whatever metaphor you want to cross here.
Kirk's computer came back and the Packlets came back. So it's once your episode ends, Lower Decks is assuming that the universe continues in a way that is antithetical to TNG, because TNG, by its episodic nature, that universe ended. The moment you walk away from that planet, the planet ceases to exist. And Lower Decks is saying, Lower Decks is interestingly. Lower Decks is maybe the most interesting way to add serialization to Star Trek, which is to return to plots that you haven't seen in a long time and do it in well, I would say that the show itself is episodic and it's not really serialized. The plot lines that they use are serialized versions of original episodes. It's kind of a neat way to take it.
Yeah. Would you say, maybe this is giving the show too much credit, would you say that Lower Decks has more to say about the Star Trek universe than Discovery does?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the other shows that they've done, TNG has a definite outlook on the universe and the Star Trek universe, where it makes its own thing, but it also lives and kind of comments on what came before. Deep Space Nine absolutely does that. Voyager, I honestly don't really know because I'm not that familiar with it. Enterprise, to a point.
Enterprise does it as dressing, I think, but isn't interested in what it actually means.
But I never really get the feeling that Discovery does. Discovery, honestly, if you want to compare both of these shows, Discovery feels more like a reference fest than Lower Decks does at this point, because I feel like Lower Decks, you can kind of parse out why they're doing this and what their sort of approach to the universe and their thoughts of the universe are. Whereas Discovery just feels like, oh, we're making a Star Trek show.
I would say that Lower Decks' perspective is actually what we get criticized as a podcast about occasionally, which is that there's always this dumb comment that you can't review Star Trek episodes in the year that you're watching them. You have to go back into the mindset of 1966, and you have to review it in the mindset of 1966. What Lower Decks is doing is looking back.
Hold on, let me go get a pack of cigarettes and some oppression, I guess.
I'll go smack my wife. You get to have a butt, and I'll be back, and then we can just go to the bar for the rest of the night. What Lower Decks is doing is it's looking at TNG and TOS, mostly TNG decisions, and criticizing them from a 2020 perspective. So it's because Mariner has a lot of points about like the Prime Directive isn't ethical, which I think that TNG believed, but I think that the majority of criticism of the Prime Directive at this point is that this is not really a good system that you've got going there. And Lower Decks is kind of obsessed with that. So I think it's an updating of being critical of previous Star Trek shows, but critical in the sense that they question why they made the decisions that they made the decisions.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think doing a prequel series in any form, whether it's Enterprise or Discovery and I guess Strange New Worlds, you kind of run into a problem because every series of Star Trek allows you to look back because it takes place in the future. It takes place in the future from the last one is what I mean. So except
sequential,
for Deep Space Nine, Deep Space Nine is parallel, but it's the beginning of Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine was created obviously years after TNG was, so you still get a little bit of that distance, and they created that distance with the character of Sisko and the setup of what Deep Space Nine was about. But when you go back and you do something like Enterprise or Discovery, you kind of end up locked in to a certain extent with the ethical canon to a certain extent.
You're bound to build towards what the next series is established. Like outside of it transcends plot lines. It transcends you can't kill this character because he has to become the captain of the ship that Kirk runs into in 15 years. It turns into you can't have their ethics significantly change, or they can't have a better version of ethics before Kirk arrives on the scene. So like your Lower Decks or Discovery ethics don't work in the context of coming before 1960s Star Trek, where Kirk's backhanding a woman if she needs it, making love to her if she needs it. So it feels a little bit backwards and disjointed when you do it that way.
Well, and it's like if you look at Enterprise doesn't have the luxury of, I mean, I guess they could have if they turned it into a story, but I don't think that they do. But Enterprise doesn't have the luxury of debating the ethics of the Prime Directive because their purpose is building towards the creation of it.
Right.
So which gets you to a certain point, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like you miss a little bit of what's nice about this franchise, that it's constantly moving forward with the actual world around it, the real world. So you can kind of look back and take stock of different things.
It's true. I never really thought about it, but it is a good argument against. It doesn't really apply to things like Star Wars, because Star Wars doesn't have anything beyond good versus evil as its like core dilemma that they're trying to deal with.
Right.
You can branch out into things like Rogue One, which is a little bit more of a political take on it, but that still feels like it's tangential to the main story arc. But Star Trek is different that way, where it becomes a hindrance to have to go back and explain why they were thinking things 50 or 30 years ago and why they thought that was the best way to go about it. So you can't take what is a natural, realistic, current take on something and stick it into the show, because then you're stuck with the show that makes no sense in the context of things that came after it. So you're better off doing what Lower Decks did, just start later, do something with it. Picard would have been well suited to do the same thing, and just sort of like move in that direction where you're just re-examining the franchise. I mean, DS9 did it effectively. I don't know how often you can do that, but you can sort of reinvigorate it by just looking at the thing and giving it a different shine.
Yeah, when I was talking about that, I specifically left Picard out because I don't really know that Picard does it either.
No.
I think it tries to, but it doesn't really commit to it. But yeah,
I mean, people rewatching Picard now are telling us that it's about things that we missed, but I hesitate to absorb. Like I think it's the same thing. It's a show having a plot is not the same as the show being about something, and I don't think that Picard was about something.
Right. Yeah, I think it tried to be, but again, I just think it never really pulled all the strings together. And I think Picard would have been the best show to do that with, because I mean, what other show is tailor-made to look back and kind of make a statement on where the universe is, as opposed to where it was when he started his career.
Yeah.
But
shocking they didn't. It's like just not. It's not touched on. What a failure. Anyway,
you got to have karate fights with incestuous siblings, I guess,
and just go to the Riker interview where he's like, Nepenthe wasn't actually in the original plot outline for this season. They just added it, which makes it more. You were commenting on why does Picard leave the Borg cube? The storyline makes much more sense if he doesn't leave to go to Nepenthe and then just have to go back to the Borg cube, and that's what it is.
Like he forgot his keys at the Borg cube.
They just had to get a drink. He's like, I can't battle the Borg yet. I'm thirsty. I need some lemonade. I'll go over here to this planet and do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lower Decks. I think I'm impressed by. I was impressed by this episode, just as it was like all the things that I wanted in the season finale that I didn't really expect that I wanted. Like I wasn't realizing until I was watching. It's like, yeah, they should just do a big battle thing, and someone should die, and things should change for next season. I was really surprised by the amount of board wiping that they did. Although I think at this point in this current TV culture, you're smart to wipe every show you do. Should probably wipe things after each season and deliberately put yourself in a position where you have to do something new next time.
Yeah, I know I've brought this up before, but I always forget that the first season of the X-Files ends with them dissolving the X-Files.
Yeah.
And it's like it didn't even make it a season before they just hit it with a hammer. And those changes echo through the rest of the series. The one thing that I wish that they had done in this, and I thought it would I figured out a good place to do it was when they had that moment towards the end when the Cerritos is the saucer section has like 3 of those clamp things stuck to it, and it's like the most dire situation, and it cuts to commercial essentially.
Yeah.
I wish that they had put up to be continued and then waited a bit and then done and now the conclusion. If they're not gonna extend it over 2 episodes, it would have been nice to do a to be continued joke.
I don't know. There's a couple strange emotional impacts this had to me. Riker and Troi is one where I realized
it's great.
Their sequence,
Yeah, I did not expect to react as positively as I did when those two showed up. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
No, it's good. You have like in a way that Q doesn't really hit the spot. It does make you go like, oh, like they are kind of like on some emotional level, I see them as like, oh, they're familiar family members almost. Like I'm familiar with these characters, and it's nice to have them enter this world, even if it's just for a moment and you get to touch base with them. I thought that the destruction of the ship that we don't even know about until this episode by the Pakleds that opens the episode is actually kind of emotionally affecting when the thing grabs the warp nacelle and then they go to warp and they blow up. I like the shots of them doing it was cool too, where it's like the long pan. Yeah. Yeah,
and that the way that they did that explosion with like the warp jump explosion, I thought was really well done. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looked nice. That was it. I think the show has gotten me a little bit if I'm actually emotionally impacted in that way out of thinking that the episodes are a little bit deeper than just endless joke after endless joke.
Yeah, and I liked I think the place where Mariner ends up is really nice actually, because I liked the bit where she was like, oh well, if I can just put my mind to it and just tighten things up for a week and then I'll be off the ship someplace else. And I liked her mom having to appeal to the other more natural side of her and be like, listen, I need a crazy plan right now. I don't need someone to tell me what's going to happen, what the book says to do.
Yeah.
I found that surprisingly effective.
Yeah. No, I did too. It was happy. I guess we'll cut it short because I think we'll do a wrap up live stream or something. If not a live stream, we'll do a wrap-up podcast. So it's we'll avoid talking about the season in depth, but we will do that at some point. If it's a live stream, I'll let people know when it's going to happen, but we'll call it a day there. And Johnny, final thought? Well, I guess we'll thank the patrons. You go to patreon.com/The Penske File if you want to support the show. A couple $1 a month, you get extra stuff like extra podcasts. We just did, the platform, which is for a special offer, but you can get other podcasts. There's like 70 sci-fi movies and stuff out there now. There's commentary tracks. We're doing a special offer. If you join the Patreon at the $5 level before Halloween, on Halloween, you will get a Halloween-themed Star Trek episode. We're doing Genesis from TNG, and The Platform, which is a sci-fi horror movie that we just covered and talked about, and it's on Netflix if you're interested. So become a $5 member of the Patreon before Halloween, and you get exclusive access to those. They won't be available after that. You have to be a member on Halloween, and then that'll be it. Special thank you goes to the Captain Tier: Christian Pouch, Tark Latif, Chris Tinsley, Mike Burnett, Sean Cardinal Doomsday, Joint Mango, Matthew Cutler, Ben Douglas, Neil Brennan, Wet Ass Pineapple, Samuel Custer, Nick Sergi, Bradley Killens, Matthew Ross, Rune Vendler, Nathan Elliott, Eric Johnson, Andrew Chola, Grim Santo, Point Extra G, Dwayne Hackett, Paul Orozco, Jordan Cooper, Derek Zajac, Kevin Reyes, Vol 13 Hero, Stefan Minton, Nick the Rat, Darth Mosk, HH28, Mad Courier 6, Jacob123, Jakey's Gamer, Patrick Sieba, Captain Brazen, Kevin Lowry, Eric Antoine, Corey Martin, William Scheisler. Thank you very much for supporting the show. Let us know what you thought about Lower Decks down below, or send in a comment or talk on social media. Any final thoughts about this one? I don't really have anything. I think I wrapped everything up that I felt, but what about you?
Yeah, I think we got most of it.
Best episode of the season? I guess it depends how you're judging them. Yeah, I would say so. It's in my top 3, I think, which I can't remember reliably what they are. I'd have to look at the list of what the episodes are, but they're all in the second half of the season, I think. We had that stretch where it was like, that's the best episode, and then the next one was like, that was the best episode, and this one fits into that top 3 somewhere, I think. Did
you catch the Star Trek toy helmet in the background when Mariner's going through and dumping all the contraband?
Oh, really? No, I don't. What is it?
You've seen that? Have you ever seen that Star Trek toy helmet that it's like this ridiculous helmet with like a blue?
Oh, I have. It's been on the Discord. Yeah.
There's one of the things that they pick up is that helmet.
Gotcha.
I think the one thing we do need to talk about is we get no break next week,
Discovery.
Right?
Yeah, Discovery
starts.
That trailer looked fucking terrible too. I don't know if I'm just biased, but there's the teaser at the end of this episode for Discovery is just Burnham. It's just Burnham. It's like I don't care about this. Like, this is people who are comparing Mariner to Burnham. You're wrong. Yeah, like they're not anywhere near each other. They're outside of being black women. Which, I'm not saying anything about that.
Would you like to open that door and go down that hallway?
I don't believe that anyone criticizing the two of them is really honestly saying that that's the reason why it's bad. But like, that's the only thing those characters have in common is that they're black women. And it's like, they're completely separate. And Burnham is a terrible character. I will agree with you, but I don't think Mariner really deserves the same treatment.
No, I think Mariner's turned out to be a great character.
Yeah,
I think we had some hesitations when it started, but I think they've really kind of either they had a plan or they figured it out. Either they had a plan and they have done their story to that plan, or it's something that they realized at the beginning and figured out a way to adjust. So either way, I think she's in a great place where character-wise now.
Yeah. But it's just that teaser for Discovery, just Burnham talking sadly about things are different here. No shit. You're thinking.
Does she show up? Does she show up in the future before everybody else or something? The way
she's
she was
flying
talking,
in, right? Maybe, are they going to do some time shenanigans? She's been there for 6 years. Is that why she's got braided hair?
I have a feeling it's going to be something like that. Because especially the way that Tilly like runs in and hugs her, like it's I feel like it's something like either Discovery got there before she did, or she got there before Discovery.
I can see her because she's got new hair. Like, she has to grow out her hair, I think.
Great.
Okay. Let's call it a day there. Thank you for listening to Lower Decks. I would recommend people watch Lower Decks if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's well worth watching. It is filler, but it's A+ filler, I think, in between the main Star Trek series. That's it. Guys, thank you very much. We'll call it a day there because I got to run, but we'll be back with a live stream about this in the future, and see you later.